If you enjoy the story, give it a like and feel free to leave a comment. Also, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon to be the first to hear new cryptid tales. I'm always looking for stories to share, so if you've had your own encounter with the unknown, send me an email at cryptidtalesmel@gmail.com. In 1961, we lived in a large house. We were a happy family, which consisted of my parents, 3 girls, a teenage boy, and a baby boy. I was about 12 years old, and something happened that year that could have ended that happy family, and it really scares me to think about it. We all went to bed on a very cold and snowy night. Daddy had taken the walls down from the 3 bedrooms upstairs, and the whole place was one big room. It was like a huge loft apartment bedroom for my 2 younger sisters and me. We had a lot of sleepovers and parties in that room. That night, we went to bed, and everyone fell asleep right away. In the middle of the night, I heard someone calling my name. I heard a little girl's voice calling me over and over again, but I was tired and didn't want to answer. I put my head under the covers and tried to ignore it. After a while, the bed started to shake really hard, so I had to open my eyes. I couldn't see anything. It was something other than the dark that kept me from seeing. It was thick smoke. When I looked on the floor, I could see where the smoke ended, and there was a space between the smoke and the floor. I remember what we were taught in school about keeping close to the floor and smoke, so I threw myself off of the bed, and I started shouting to my sisters, but no one answered me. I started to crawl to my 8-year-old sister, Judy's bed, and I found her still asleep. I shook her, but she didn't wake up. I was crying and screaming her name, but she wouldn't wake up. I tried waking up Norma, who was 6 years old, but she wouldn't wake up either. I started to panic. I had to find my parents. They were in one of the bedrooms downstairs, and my brother, Tony, was in the other bedroom. I crawled down the stairs, and I went into my parents' room. I started pulling at my father's t-shirt and crying, but he wouldn't wake up either. I knew we were going to die, and I was not going to leave them. So I sat on the floor and cried. I heard the little girl's voice again, calling my name again. I jumped up in near panic. No one would wake up. I finally mustered all my strength and pulled my dad off of the bed while I leveraged my body against my baby brother's crib that was in their room. When Daddy hit the floor, he woke up. He saw the smoke and understood what was happening. We both started opening the doors and windows. I helped him carry everyone outside. They woke up outside in the snow in their night clothes and bare feet. I don't know why I was the only one not affected by the smoke, but I am so grateful to whoever that was that woke me. What would have happened to my family if that little girl had not called my name and shook my bed? Was it a ghost? What do you think? Sonia Guzman. To start with, I'd like to keep my name and location private, as I'm a teacher at the local high school. You can call me Mike, and I live in a small town next to a state park. The park is mostly on the east side of the highway, but there's a back road that exits on the west and branches off one way to a campground area. The other runs on through for several miles to the town, where it rejoins the highway. During the off-season, nobody much uses this route except for locals taking a shortcut, and occasionally other folks who take a wrong turn and end up here by mistake. What I'm going to tell you happened a few years back. On a weekend in October, I'd been visiting my sister, brother-in-law, and 9-year-old nephew who live about 50 miles north of here, and I was driving home in my pickup late in the afternoon. The sun was getting low, but the light was good enough to see clearly. I was still chuckling about all the BS my nephew had been telling me. He had been to camp for the first time that summer, and he had a whole slew of monster stories that the older kids had been scaring the daylights out of him with. He swore they were all true. Dogman, Bigfoot, and some others I'd never heard of, like the Chupacabra and the Winnebago. I told him I didn't know anything about the Chupacabras, but some folks down the road from me used to have a Winnebago. I don't think he believed me. Anyhow, I'd turned off the highway and was shortcutting through the park. As I came around a bend, there was a white Volkswagen Rabbit on the opposite side, just off the road and resting in a shallow ditch. I could see a man and a woman in the front seat and a couple of kids in the back. They were all just sitting there like they were frozen. I pulled to a stop and was getting out to offer help when all of a sudden something large, dark, and hairy ambled around from the other side of the car. My first thought was a bear, and I regretted not having my rifle with me. A warning shot or two would have scared it off. Then it stood up on its hind legs, reached for a windshield wiper, wrenched it off, and chomped down on it. That's when I saw that it wasn't a bear. Its head resembled a dog or wolf. Its paws were elongated, more like human hands. Its shaggy coat was a gray and a black brindle color. It had a long, bushy tail, and it was about 6 feet tall standing upright. Whatever it was, it obviously didn't care for the taste of the wiper and tossed it to the ground. Then it proceeded to circle the car, returning to all fours and sniffing each tire in turn, licking the back window and scratching at the license plate, as though it was puzzled about what sort of object the car might be, checking to see if any part of it was edible. Now I was sitting there just as frozen as the folks in the car when a black Jeep Wrangler screeched to a halt behind me and a woman jumped out. She was small, blonde, and 30-ish, and she sprinted across the road towards the thing, which reared up on its hind legs and took a couple of steps in her direction. "Sit," she commanded. It sat. "Stay." It stayed. "That's a good fella." She shook a finger under its nose. "You mustn't chase cars, do you understand? Someone could get hurt. Now off you go." It got up and trotted off into the woods. She climbed back into her Jeep, muttering something about irresponsible dog owners, and drove away. After I helped the people get their car back on the road, we went our separate ways without saying much to each other. I guess the whole thing seemed sort of unreal, and to this day I still can't decide which part of it was more so, the dog man or the dog lady. I kind of regret not getting her license number, though. I've got a Rottweiler pup that I sure could use some help with. He's been kicked out of 2 obedience classes, and I'll bet she could straighten him out pretty quick. This may sound familiar. I have posted this in the comment section some time ago. To give a little background, we used to live on a dead-end street with a street light by the house and woods all around it. Here's the story. My older sister's husband had died. He died way too young. He was only 43. After his death, she bought a mobile home on the lot next to us. Everything went well until her dog went missing. There was no reason for the dog to go missing, and it really surprised us when it happened. After that, her home burned to the ground, leaving nothing but gutted ruins. But that's not why I'm here. After the fire, strange things started to happen, like there was bad vibes all around the woods. It was a good-sized area back there where the neighborhood kids would play, but among the kids having fun, I heard them say something scary. They said they saw a black beast that looked like a big cat with glowing eyes in the ruins there. I didn't pay it much attention, but one cold afternoon I was feeling brave So I started to walk towards those old burn-up ruins. A feeling came over me and stopped me dead in my tracks. Something told me not to go any closer, and I listened. After a few minutes, I slowly backed away. There was about 200 yards between the ruins and the house, maybe less. When I felt safe again, I turned around and left in a brisk walk, not a jog, but a quick pace. I never went back up there. They got it cleared up and she got another home later, but that really shook me that day. That's it. Sorry if it wasn't enough, but I will say this. Way back, my dad had a garage there, and he was working on a town truck. All the brakes were on, but somehow it rolled down the driveway. Now, the garage was on a little hill, but it stopped right in front of our elderly neighbor's house, right before crashing into it. I was there when it happened. My dad was gone getting parts for it, and 1 minute it was there, and then in a flash it was in the neighbor's yard. That still scares me.